Almost everyone ignores pennies, but a few Lincoln 1-cent coins have shocked collectors with their value. Some look exactly like the ones in your pocket today. One tiny detail, a date, a mint mark, or a small error, can change everything. Before you spend another penny, take a closer look. Like and subscribe to uncover hidden coin secrets. The 1998 Lincoln penny is one of those coins almost nobody respects. It's modern, it's common, and it's been living in pockets, jars, drawers, and car cup holders for years like it doesn't matter. Most people see it and think, it's just a cent. But here's the truth real collectors know. Modern pennies can still be treasure if they were born with the right mistake. Because in 1998, the US Mint was producing coins at a crazy speed. Millions upon millions of cents rolling out non-stop. And when machines run that fast, errors don't just happen, they escape. And to show you how wild this hobby can get, extreme mint errors in the US coin world have reached prices in the range of $52,650 to $122,750 when the mistake is huge, rare, and verified. That doesn't mean every 1998 penny is worth that. Most are worth 1 cent. But it proves something important. Even a tiny coin can become a serious trophy when the error is real. So today we're breaking down the 1998 Lincoln cent. What a normal one is worth, which errors actually matter, and how to tell the difference between a real mint error and a coin that just got destroyed in circulation. Let's start with the baseline. A normal 1998 Lincoln cent is copper-plated zinc. It looks copper, but it's not solid copper. It has a zinc core with a thin copper coating. In circulated condition, it's worth 1 cent. Even if it's shiny, most 1998 pennies are still common because so many were made. So if your 1998 penny looks normal, feels normal, and weighs normal, don't let anyone online convince you it's worth hundreds just because it's from the 90s. It's not rare just for existing. The real money starts when something is wrong in a way that only the mint could create. Now, the first category of valuable mistakes is what I call starter errors. These are real mint errors, and they're fun to find, but they usually aren't life-changing money. The first one is an off-center strike. An off-center penny happens when the blank planchet isn't seated correctly in the press. The die comes down, but the design lands partially off the coin. You'll see a blank area where no design exists. Off-center coins are collectible because they're dramatic and easy to spot. But value depends on how off-center it is and whether the date is visible. A small off-center might be worth $10 or $20. A bigger off-center with the full date visible can jump to $50, $100, or more. The more dramatic it looks, the more collectors want it. Next is a broad strike. A broad strike happens when the coin is struck without the collar that normally holds it in place. The metal spreads outward, the coin becomes wider than normal, and the rim looks strange. It's not the most expensive error in the world, but it's absolutely collectible. A mild broad strike might be a $10 to $30 coin. A stronger, cleaner broad strike can be worth more, especially if it has great eye appeal and hasn't been damaged after leaving the mint. Now let's talk about doubling, because this is where most people get tricked. Not all doubling is valuable. There's something called mechanical doubling, and it looks like a flat shadow on the letters. It's shelf-like, not sharp, and it's usually not worth big money. The doubling that collectors actually pay for is a true double die, where the die itself has a doubled image. That means the doubling appears as a real second outline, clean and consistent. On a 1998 penny, check Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date. If the letters look like they have a second image and it's not flat or scraped looking, that's when you slow down and investigate. A minor double die might be a small premium, but a strong double die in high grade can become a serious collector coin. Now here's where 1998 gets really exciting. The famous 1998 wide AM variety. This is one of the most hunted modern penny varieties because it can still be found in everyday coins, and you don't need a scale or expensive equipment to spot it. Flip the coin over and look at the word America on the reverse. Focus on the letters A and M in AM. On most pennies, the A and M are very close together. On the wide AM variety, there's a noticeable gap between them. That tiny spacing difference is a huge deal because it means the wrong reverse design was used for some business strike pennies. And this is why collectors love it. It's a real variety, it's recognizable, and it can turn a common-looking cent into something worth real money. A 1998 wide AM penny can bring strong value even if it's circulated, and in uncirculated condition, it becomes even more desirable. It's not $1 million coin, but it's one of the best reasons to check every 1998 cent you find. Now let's talk about another error category that shows up on modern cents. Plating problems. Remember, the copper coating on a 1998 penny is thin. Sometimes it fails. You can find cents with bubbling, blistering, peeling, or areas where the copper didn't bond correctly and the gray zinc shows through. Some of these are real mint errors. Some are environmental damage. The difference is important. A true mint plating error often looks like it happened during production, not like someone scratched the coin. It can look smooth in a strange way, like the surface never formed correctly. Small plating issues might only be worth a little, but dramatic, eye-catching plating errors can bring bigger premiums, especially if the coin is clean and the error is obvious. Now we enter the serious territory. Wrong planchet errors. This is when a penny is struck on a blank meant for another coin, or on the wrong metal. These are rare, and when they happen, they create coins that shouldn't exist. A penny struck on the wrong planchet might weigh differently, look the wrong color, or have an incomplete design because the blank wasn't the right size. This is the kind of error that can explode in value when it's verified, especially in high condition. And that's where the $52,650 to $122,750 energy lies. Not in a normal 1998 penny, not in a tiny off-center, but in the extreme, verified, trophy-level mint mistakes that collectors fight over. So let's make the difference crystal clear. A normal 1998 penny is worth 1 cent. A 1998 penny with small errors like off-center strikes or broad strikes can be worth a few dollars to over $100 depending on how dramatic it is. A 1998 penny with the wide AM variety can be worth far more than face value and is one of the best realistic big finds you can still hunt. And a 1998 penny with a major wrong planchet strike is where the hobby becomes legendary. So here's the hunting strategy. First, check every 1998 penny for the wide AM spacing. That's the best and most realistic target. Second, look for off-center strikes and broad strikes. Third, inspect the date and lettering for true double die doubling. Fourth, watch for plating issues that look mint-made, not scraped or damaged. And whatever you do, don't clean the coin. Cleaning kills value fast and destroys the original surface collectors want. Because the 1998 Lincoln cent looks like nothing special. But the right one, the one with the right reverse, the right error, the right mistake, can turn pocket change into a real collector story. So check your change, check old jars, check rolls, and don't sleep on modern coins. Sometimes the treasure isn't old. Sometimes it's hiding in plain sight. Until next time, happy treasure hunting. The 2014 D Lincoln cent is the kind of coin most people don't even notice anymore. It's modern, it's everywhere, and it's the exact type of penny you leave behind on a counter because it feels like it's not worth carrying. But that's exactly why it's dangerous. Because when a coin is that common, it becomes invisible. And when something becomes invisible, mistakes can hide inside it for years without anyone realizing what they're holding. The Denver Mint pumped out millions of pennies in 2014, and modern coins are produced at insane speed. Machines run non-stop, planchets feed in like a conveyor belt, and the goal is quantity, not perfection. That's why modern era coins are real, and that's why some of them can be worth serious money. And in the world of extreme mint errors, collectors have paid shocking prices, ranges like $40,750 to $104,850, for the most dramatic, verified, once-in-a-lifetime mistakes. Not for a normal 2014 D penny, but for the kind of error that should never exist. So today we're breaking down the 2014 D Lincoln cent errors that actually matter, how to spot them, and the difference between a regular penny worth 1 cent and an error penny that collectors will fight over. Let's set the baseline first so nobody gets fooled. The normal 2014 D Lincoln cent is a copper-plated zinc coin. It looks like copper, but it's zinc inside with a thin copper skin on the outside. In circulated condition, it's worth face value, 1 cent. Even if you find a handful of them, even if they look clean, they're still common. Now, if you find a 2014 D penny that's truly uncirculated, bright, fresh, no major marks, then yes, it can be worth a small premium to collectors who build high-grade sets. But that's still normal collecting money, not life-changing money. The life-changing money starts when the coin has a real mint error. And here's the most important rule. Damage is not an error. A penny that got smashed in a dryer, scraped on concrete, or hit by tools is not a rare mint mistake. That's just damage after the coin left the mint. A real error has logic. It has a pattern. It looks like it was born wrong, not abused later. So what should you look for on a 2014 D cent? The first big one is the off-center strike. An off-center happens when the blank isn't sitting correctly in the press. When the dies come down, the design lands partially off the coin, leaving a blank crescent area with no design at all. This is one of the most popular errors because it's easy to see and easy to understand. The value depends on how far off-center it is and whether the date is still visible. A small off-center might sell for $10 to $30. A bigger one, especially with a full date and a clean look, can jump into the hundreds. And modern off-centers can be extra attractive because they often still have that bright, fresh color when they're found in rolls. Next up is the broad strike. A broad strike happens when the coin is struck without the collar that normally keeps it contained. Without that collar, the metal spreads outward, and the penny comes out wider than normal with a strange-looking rim. Broad strikes can be worth $20 to $100 or more depending on how dramatic they are and how clean the coin looks. They're also a great starter error because they're very recognizable once you've seen one. Now let's talk about clipped planchets. A clipped planchet happens before the coin is struck. When the blank is cut incorrectly and a piece is missing from the edge, it looks like someone took a bite out of the coin. But the key is the shape. A real clip is smooth and curved, not jagged and broken. Jagged usually means damage, not a mint error. Clipped planchets can be worth $15 to $75 depending on size and eye appeal. Bigger clips on nicer coins can go higher. Now we get into the most common modern penny problem: plating errors. Remember, this penny is copper-plated zinc. That copper layer is thin, and it doesn't always behave. Sometimes you'll see bubbles, blisters, peeling, or areas where the copper looks weak or missing. Some coins even look patchy, like they have strange discoloration or exposed zinc showing through. Collectors love dramatic plating errors because they're visual and they're very modern. A tiny blister might not be worth much, but a dramatic peeling plating error can bring strong premiums. Depending on how extreme it looks, you can see values from $10 up to a few hundred. Another error that's surprisingly collectible is a grease-filled die strike. This happens when grease or debris fills part of the die, blocking the design from striking properly. The result is missing letters, weak areas, or parts of the coin that look like they were erased. On a 2014 D penny, you might see missing letters in Liberty, weakness in I in God We Trust, or parts of the date that look faded. Minor ones are cheap, but strong ones can be collectible, especially if the missing area is obvious and the coin is clean. Now let's talk about the one that makes collectors lean in closer: double dies. A true double die is not the same as machine doubling. Real double dies come from the die itself being doubled during the creation process, leaving a second image in the design. Check the motto, Liberty, and the date. If you see strong, clean doubling that looks like a second outline, not a flat shelf, that can be a real variety. Some are minor and only worth a small premium, but stronger ones can bring serious attention. Now we enter the monster category: wrong planchet errors. This is where legends are made. A wrong planchet penny means the Lincoln cent design was struck on a blank meant for a different coin. Wrong size, wrong metal, wrong weight. This is the kind of mistake that shouldn't happen, but when it does, it creates a coin that feels impossible. This is the category where extreme prices live, and where numbers like $40,750 to $104,850 start making sense. Not because 2014 D pennies are rare, but because a verified wrong planchet or freak mint accident is rare. So how do you hunt smart? Here's the simple 2014 D strategy. Look for visual errors first: off-center strikes, clips, broad strikes, missing letters, strange surfaces, or dramatic discoloration. Use a scale if you can. Normal is about 2.50 grams, and anything way off deserves attention. Use a magnet test too. A normal penny should not stick. If it sticks, something unusual is going on. And most importantly, never clean it. Cleaning destroys value fast. Most 2014 D pennies are worth 1 cent, but the right one, with the right mistake, can turn a modern penny into a collector trophy. So don't ignore the boring years. Sometimes the boring years are exactly where the treasure is hiding. Drop a comment if you found any strange 2014 pennies lately, and until next time, happy treasure hunting. The 2003 D Lincoln cent is one of those coins that almost feels invisible. It's modern. It's everywhere. It's the kind of penny people leave behind on the ground because it's just 1 cent, but that's exactly why it's dangerous. Because the most valuable coins aren't always the oldest ones. They're the ones nobody bothered to check. And when a coin is common, it slips through hands fast, it gets mixed into jars, thrown into rolls, and forgotten for years. That's how real mint errors survive long enough to be discovered. Today we're breaking down the 2003 Lincoln penny error coin world, what a normal one is worth, what the real errors look like, and how the right mistake can turn pocket change into something collectors will pay serious money for. And yes, in the extreme end of the hobby, verified mint mistakes can bring shocking results. Numbers like $47,500 all the way up to $115,960 when the error is dramatic enough, rare enough, and proven. That's not what a regular 2003 penny sells for. That's the kind of money tied to impossible errors. The ones that shouldn't exist. So let's start with the baseline. A normal 2003 Lincoln cent is copper-plated zinc. It looks copper, but inside it's mostly zinc with a thin copper skin. In circulated condition, it's worth 1 cent. Even though it's over 20 years old, it's still extremely common. A jar full of them is not a treasure chest. But value changes fast when two things happen. The coin is in ultra-high grade, or the coin has a real mint error. High-grade modern pennies can sell for surprising money because collectors compete for the cleanest examples. Most pennies from 2003 were handled, tossed around, scratched, and stained. So a truly flawless one is harder to find than you'd think. But the real excitement comes from mistakes. The first major error to look for is an off-center strike. This happens when the blank isn't seated correctly in the press. The die comes down and the design lands off to the side, leaving a blank crescent area on the coin. Off-centers are popular because they're dramatic and obvious. You don't need to be an expert to spot one. The value depends on how far off-center it is and whether the date and mint mark are still visible. A small off-center might be worth $10 to $30. A bigger one with the full date showing can jump into the hundreds. And if it's a major off-center that still looks clean and uncirculated, collectors can pay serious money. Next up is the broad strike. A broad strike happens when the coin is struck without the collar that normally holds it in place. That means the penny spreads outward more than it should, making it look wider, flatter, and sometimes a little distorted around the rim. Broad strikes are collectible because they look wrong in a clean, mint-made way. Broad-struck pennies can range from $20 to $100 or more depending on how dramatic the spread is and how nice the coin looks. Now let's talk about clipped planchets. A clipped planchet is when the blank was cut incorrectly before striking, leaving a curved chunk missing from the edge. It looks like someone took a bite out of the coin. Real clips tend to have a smooth curve, not jagged damage, and sometimes you'll see weakness opposite the clip because the blank wasn't held perfectly during the strike. Small clips can be worth $10 to $40. Bigger clips can bring $100 or more, especially if the coin is clean and the clip is obvious. Now here's where modern pennies get really interesting. Plating errors. Because a 2003 penny is copper-plated zinc, the copper is only a thin shell. If the plating process goes wrong, the coin can come out looking wild. You might see bubbling, blistering, peeling, or areas where the zinc shows through as a dull gray patch. Some coins even show streaky copper coverage or rough texture that looks like the coin is breaking apart. Minor plating bubbles are common and usually don't bring huge money. But dramatic plating errors can be very collectible. Depending on how strong the plating failure is, you could see values from $10 up to a few $100s for an extreme, eye-catching example. The key is knowing the difference between a real plating error and damage. A real plating error usually looks like it's part of the coin surface, like it was born that way. Environmental damage looks rough, eaten away, corroded, or chemically stained. If the coin looks burned or crusty, it's probably not a mint error. Now let's move into the category that makes collectors stop scrolling. Double strikes. A double strike happens when the coin gets struck, doesn't eject properly, and gets struck again. Sometimes the second strike is rotated. Sometimes it's offset. Sometimes it creates a ghost-like second image that looks unreal. These can bring serious premiums because they're dramatic and unique. A mild double strike might be $50 to $200. A big rotated or offset double strike can go higher, especially if the coin is uncirculated and the details are sharp. Then there are strike-through errors. This happens when grease, debris, or some kind of foreign material gets between the die and the coin during the strike. The result is missing letters, distorted areas, or strange textures that don't belong. Small strike-throughs might only be worth a little. But if the strike-through is dramatic, like missing major parts of the design or showing a clear impression of the material, collectors will pay more. Now we enter the rarest category. Wrong planchet errors. This is where a penny stops being a penny. A wrong planchet error happens when the penny design is struck on a blank meant for another coin. The result might be the wrong size, the wrong thickness, or the wrong weight. Sometimes the penny design won't fully fit because the planchet is too small. Sometimes it looks like a penny trapped inside a different coin's body. Wrong planchet errors are rare, and they're not supposed to escape the mint. But when they do, collectors treat them like trophies. This is also the category where the biggest money in the hobby lives. That $47,500 to $115,960 range? That's the kind of territory people associate with extreme, verified mint mistakes. Not small errors. Not minor clips. The how did this even happen? Coins. Most 2003 pennies will never touch that level. But the right wrong planchet strike, the right dramatic multi-strike, or the right impossible mint accident can put a coin into headline territory. So here's the difference. Crystal clear. A normal 2003 penny in circulation is worth 1 cent. A normal 2003 penny in ultra-high grade can be worth more. But it has to be almost flawless. A 2003 penny with a real mint error can jump from a few dollars to hundreds, sometimes thousands depending on how dramatic the error is. And the extreme end of the hobby, the verified monsters, that's where the big numbers live, $47,500 to $115,960. So if you want to hunt these like a pro, here's the strategy. Check your 2003 pennies for obvious strike problems. Look for off-centers, clips, and broad strikes. Use a magnifier to check for unusual doubling and surface issues. Watch for dramatic plating errors. And if something looks truly strange, weigh it. A digital scale is your best friend. Most importantly, don't clean the coin. Cleaning destroys value fast. Because the 2003 Lincoln cent is one of those coins hiding in plain sight. Most are just spenders. But the right one with the right mistake can turn 1 cent into a real collector prize. Until next time, happy treasure hunting.